Good morning. Thank you for joining. Hopefully we've all managed to get on this time. Apologies for the confusion over the last Webex and passwords. That all got very complicated. So I'd like to welcome you to this Webex session. We're going to really just run through how you can make the most of your Webex session. Make the most of not your Webex session, your umbrella trial. So really, let's just have a quick look at the agenda. So we're going to do a few quick introductions just so that you know where we are. I'm going to then just quickly do a quick review of Umbrella, look at the steps to deploy Umbrella, and look at how you can make a trial successful. Let me just check that Chris has managed to hit the record button on this session. Chris, have you managed to hit record?
I have. It's recording. We're a minute in.
Oh, a minute.
It works. I
know. So only 29 to go. That's not too bad. So then what we'll do is we'll just look at a quick video of just how easy it is to actually deploy Umbrella. Now, the reason I've done a video rather than doing it live is that part of that process involves changing the DNS on your laptop. Now, that in itself isn't particularly difficult. It's not particularly hard. But the thought of trying to do that while I was trying to be on a Webex at the same time, I could just see the demo gods conspiring against me and it all going horribly wrong. But the one thing to say is that video is real time. So it's a couple of minutes and that is real time. There's only one cut in that video and I'll show you where that cut is just because I made a boo-boo and I needed just to wait for a second or two, but I will explain more. We're then going to look at some questions and look at the next steps and open the floor up to yourselves. So we'll unmute you all so that if you've got any questions, that's the time to ask. So if you've got any questions as we're going through, rather than trying to remember what you need to ask, if you just pop into the Q&A box on the Webex, scribble them in, Chris will do his wonderful job and collate those and then ping those over to me to prompt me to make sure that we get everything answered towards the end. We're not planning on this being a particularly long session. I'm aiming to be done and dusted by 11, so you've all got time to go and have coffee and get the rest of your morning back. Because really, the whole point of this is to try and just show you how easy it is to deploy Umbrella. Okay, so let's do a bit of the why Umbrella. Umbrella, it provides malware and phishing protection. It also gives you a means to enforce AUP as acceptable use policy. And because it's a cloud security platform, it's hosted in the cloud, there's very little actually to deploy on your own premise. So it's nice and easy to deploy. And along with the kind of the malware and the AUP and all that other good stuff, it's now starting to give you a lot of visibility into the shadow IT, the applications that people are using that you aren't necessarily aware of. And you can either use that as a big brother and go and start blocking those apps, or you can do a bit more of a softly approach and see why they're using Dropbox when you're an Office 365 house and should be able to do everything with Share. Is it just a training issue? Is it people not understanding? Or have people got real issues with the infrastructure that you've got that they're having to work around it? And it'll allow you to address those issues. The nice thing, of course, is that the Umbrella roaming client gives protection both on and off premises. The nice thing with that, of course, is that when I'm roaming about the country going to see people, I don't jump onto the VPN every time. So I'm not going back through our company policy. I'm not going back through our company protection. Well, I am, because I've got the roaming Umbrella client on my laptop. So I get that protection when I'm out and about, when I'm logged in at Starbucks and I'm in a hotel. And the last one I think is quite important, because the way Umbrella works, we'll talk about that in a second, because it's the DNS, which gives those IP addresses, those names lookups, it stops current infections getting out. The story that Cisco love to tell is the WannaCry outbreak a few years ago. Two NHS trusts weren't particularly badly hit by WannaCry. One had correctly gone round and patched all their Windows machines, so their machines weren't actually vulnerable to the exploit that the WannaCry made made use of. And the other trust was actually trialing Umbrella. And the reason that it stopped those infections getting out is that when the malware was trying to talk back to its command and control, it wasn't getting the right IP address. So it couldn't see the command and control. It couldn't get the triggers, the controls to say encrypt and give the ransomware. So that's really just why we want to look at Umbrella. I think the key ones from my point of view, it's easy to deploy. It gives you protection when you're on and off-prem, and it gives you that acceptable use policy. So that's quite a powerful story. Okay, so let's just remind ourselves how, in basic terms, Umbrella works. So here we have a PC that wants to try and start a web session to eBay. So I will come and ask Umbrella, what's the IP address for eBay? Umbrella will look up that IP address and send it me back. And I will then kick off a web session over to 66.135.203.62, which, if I manage to do my NS lookups correctly, is an IP address for eBay. Okay, so that's a good site. So let's look at a not so good site. Let's look at internetbadguys.com. Internet Bad Guys, just for your knowledge and information, is a real site. It's out there on the web. It's an open DNS site, so it's hosted by Umbrella as a test site, and it's a phishing site to all intents and purposes. It actually isn't. It's just a site that gives you if you had Umbrella, this would be blocked. But it's got all the characteristics of a phishing site, so malware protection should pick it up as a bad site. So what happens in this case? So our PC makes that same request. Umbrella, what's the IP address for internetbadguys.com? But instead of Umbrella returning this nasty 67215 address, it sends you a different address. And that address is the block page for Umbrella. So you don't actually kick off a web session over to internetbadguys.com at all. You'll just get presented that web page, that block page. Now, that's a very basic overview of how that works, and we'll look at how you can deploy it more later. But that's just a reminder, and there's lots more behind the scenes. There's lots of AI and lots of Shazam almost like algorithms looking at DNS to actually populate those bad lists. And they make big use of the kind of the Cisco security intelligence group Talos. So they're building and pulling from all that, and that's the good thing with kind of that Cisco portfolio. It's all protected. It's all under that big one banner. Okay. So let's have a look at the steps that you'd need to deploy Umbrella. And these are quite simple. First of all, we need to go into the dashboard and create an identity. Well, that could literally just be adding your external IP address to the dashboard. And that's so that when your packets get to Umbrella, they know which policy to apply. We then need to send some DNS traffic to Umbrella. Well, that's relatively straightforward as well. This is my home Meraki MX64, and when I'm delivering out my IP addresses, I've nicely got the option there to use and give out the Umbrella dashboard. To give out the Umbrella IP addresses in my DHCP responses. But there are a number of ways that you can get that address out to the users. And then almost optional, but something that you're all going to go in and do, is you can then go in and refine the policy. You can set acceptable use policies. You can set your own custom block pages. You can change, the little logo in the top just so that your users recognize your own company logo and know it's a genuine block page. And you can set up black and white lists. And then, importantly, you want to go and test it. Welcome.umbrella.com will just make sure that you're being seen through the DNS as coming through Umbrella. And you should see a nice big red tick. A nice green tick. This page is red if you're not going through Umbrella, strangely. So let's have a think about a trial. It makes sense that you need to plan the trial. because if you plan a trial and think about what you want to get from it, you're going to get value, and you're going to actually see how you could use Umbrella in a positive way within inside your own organizations. Activating the trial is as straightforward as finding the email that Cisco sent welcoming you to Umbrella and just going in and changing your password so you can get in. You then need to go in and set up those identities. And then I think it's really worthwhile, after it's been running for a couple of days, to work with Storm and look at that review of where that policy's been, what you've seen, what you'd like to see. And that may then lead you to go, okay, well, look, we've seen some stuff, we've seen some axe traffic, we now need to go and look at setting up a few roaming computers. Or if you'd set up roaming computers to start with, look at adding in a small site, or looking in and adding in some policy to allow certain groups of users to get to Facebook and others not. And then again, refine, let it run for another few days, another week, and then review again. And then hopefully at that point, you'll have seen those win criteria, you'll have seen everything that you need to see that Umbrella is going to give you positive security, it's going to give you finer control, and it's going to give you that visibility into your environment so that you're going to make the most of the solution. Okay, so we quite often hear reasons as to why people don't want to run a trial. I'm just too busy. I don't want to affect the production network. Change control will never go for it. And I just don't want to change my entire DNS just for a trial. Now, these are all very valid reasons that you may be a bit hesitant in running an Umbrella trial. But in reality, you could just add a couple of PCs manually. And that's the video I'm going to show you in a moment. I don't want to affect the entire production network. Well, just put the roaming client on a couple of laptops and see how you get on. Change control will never go for it. Yeah, if you try and change a whole corporate network, maybe they won't. But you could always set it up on a small office somewhere, or even as I use it at home. Just change my external IP address and point to it, and then you can see the benefits. I don't want to change my entire DNS just for a trial. Well, just send an access point for your guest to it. In our office, we've got some guest SSIDs that go through Umbrella. That just means that we can then just use that. And when you think of that in those terms, that why not really does become a why not. It's easy. So let's just have a look at those again. We could just change a couple of PCs and add the IP address to the dashboard. You can just install that roaming client on a laptop, and that really is a job of 5 minutes just to install that client. It's all downloadable from the dashboard, all pre-configured. You could use a small branch, you could use a home office, or you could point a guest access point to Umbrella. And this goes back to that plan. If you plan with Storm Engineering, then they can give you the best way forward, and you can work together and find the easiest way of doing it. Okay, so I said I'd show you a video. As I said, this is real time. So this is me actually typing. I've not sped any of this up, and there's only one edit in this video. And I'll show you where that edit is as we get to it. So what I'll do is, as I kick this video off, I'll just talk it over so you can see the processes that I'm going through. So first of all, I've got my laptop, and I'm just going to find my external IP address. I'm just going to cut and paste that because we're going to need that when we go into the dashboard. Just for completeness, I'm going to just show you that I'm not currently using Umbrella. And of course, I needed to make sure that I'd actually managed to remove this laptop from the environment. I'm going to jump onto the dashboard. I think I was already logged in previously, so I don't think I need to enter my credentials, but you'd normally just use your normal login from here. I'm just going to come down to deployments, and I'm going to add in a network. That's simple, just give the outside address so that you can see. Just going to add in that IP address that I cut and pasted earlier, give it a name, and I never can type, so you'll see me correcting my typing. Pop in that IP address and save it. I've clicked the box for dynamic. That's only because I'm on a home network and it changes occasionally. So I'm now going to jump over to my wireless adapter and just jump on and change the DNS server and just manually pop in the umbrella address. So there's that umbrella address, 208.67.222.222, and it's backup 220 and 220. And that's then it. So now when my DNS traffic comes from my laptop out through to the umbrella cloud, it will get a policy. So here I'm just going to just reset do an IP config renew and release, just so that I make sure I get the right DNS server. So this is just showing you that it's actually accepted those changes, and there you'll spot those IP addresses, the primary and the backup. And now I should be able to come across and actually go back to that welcome site and just make sure I'm now using umbrella. And there's that green box, so that's always nice. I'm then going to go and test that internetbadguys.com and make sure that I get protection. So when I hit enter there, I'll go in and I'll get that site blocked. And then this is where the cut was. The reason is I was then going to try and test acceptable gambling site, and I just needed to leave it a little bit longer to allow it to populate round. So when I first tried it, it didn't block instantly. I just needed to have a slurp of coffee and wait 30 seconds before it would actually block that Sun Bingo. But apart from that one cut, just before I typed in Sun Bingo, that was a real-time demonstration. I would have done it live, but I'm too much of a coward to try and do it on a Webex live. It would always go wrong for me because that's the way of the world. But hopefully you've got the idea there that setting up that umbrella PC and sending it off to the cloud is actually fairly straightforward. Oops, don't want to do that one. So really, that is it. That is the way of setting up umbrella. So really what I want to do now is open up the floor, see if you've got any questions, see if Chris has collated any during the questions and answers, and just see if there's anything else I can add to that. During that trial, you will have questions. You can either ask them during those review sessions, and we tend to work on an initial review after about a week, refine, change, and then review again at the end of about a fortnight. But at the end of the day, Storm are there to help you. So you can always ring your account managers. You've got all their contact details, but these are just the generic sales, just in case you've not got them to hand. Chris, can you open up the floor and see if there are any questions from the floor? Was there anything in the questions and answers?
There's nothing in the Q&A box, but I'll unmute everybody now. So
cool.
Feel free to ask questions, guys.
Hopefully it makes sense.
I'm fairly good at the moment. It seems quite straightforward in the setup and what it actually does.
Yep.
Yeah, I've no major questions at the moment.
Cool. I mean, the one thing that we're just trying to get over is if you're trying to plan a trial, if you go all in and try and do the full Active Directory integration and do all the bells and whistles, the chances are you've got better things to do in your day job, and it's never quite going to happen. Let's be honest. But if you're just changing a couple of laptops and putting the roaming client on, you stand a chance of doing that because that's only going to take you 20 minutes. You can then let them run for a couple of days and then go and look and see what they've seen. If you're sitting it on your home network, it's 5 minutes to change it, as you saw in the video. leave it a week, and then come back and go, ooh. Because I mean, the state that we want you to be in is we want it to run for a week, you to come back, look at it, and go, oh, this is cool. Oh, what else can we do with this? And then be badgering us to give you more. I mean, that's the ideal, because at the end of the day, if you see a product and you use it and you see benefit of it, you can justify it and you can buy it. I mean, let's be honest, that's what we're here for, trying to help you get the most from those trials. Any other questions from the floor?
No, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else? Cool. Well, we'll leave the lines open just for a second, just as I'm wrapping up. We will be sending round the recording. I'll probably do a bit of editing just in case I've got any dreadful ums and ers in it. I'll have to just review that from bit. But we'll send you that round. If you need any help with setting up a trial, the guys over in the office will be more than happy to help and get you connected to the people that can help you plan and make the most of those trials. Just as we're finishing off, I'll just leave you with a little bit of a silly video, but it does show you quite how easy it is. And if I was to tell you that it took me an awful lot longer to create that animated video than it did to actually change my DNS and point it at Umbrella, you wouldn't be very surprised. Okay then, gents, if there's no other questions from the floor, I'm going to leave you with sort of about 7 minutes, return back to your morning, give you a chance to have a biscuit with your coffee before getting back to your day jobs. Any questions though, do just reach out and shout. Talk to the guys at Storm. They can get you in touch with anybody to help you plan and make the most of those trials. Okay, thank you very much for your time this morning.